Hey there, welcome to another edition of the Akashic Portal Weekly. I'm your host, Jen Duchene, jenduchene.com, and we're looking at the week of August 31st through September 5th. So we are moving into the last quarter of the year. Wow. The equinox comes. We have a full moon this week. A lot of movement, activity happening that is pushing us into taking action, peeling back layers. I'm using the Illuminating Journey cards that I created with the help of the Akashic Records. And of course, these decks are available for purchase on my website. Let's see what the cards have to say. What do we need to know this week? Well, first card is a tool. For those of you who don't know, these cards have portals, numbers, and tools. And tools are usually the way we move through things. So I find it really fascinating that the first thing we're given is a tool, and this is called liquid. And on the bottle it says potion for motion. So I was just talking about the need to move forward, move through, it's not just feeling our feelings, which is really important. It's acknowledging that our feelings can often be, not that the emotion is manufactured, but the idea behind it is manufactured. Like we think somebody did something to us, or we're holding a certain belief that we manufactured when we were children. Something happened, we decided a certain thing, and now we're living through that energy. So like whatever it is we decided at 6 years old about money, about love, about who we are, those things could very well be still holding us hostage. So how do we move beyond that? We think about what liquid could do. What does water do to help us kind of move away from stuckness? Because water creates flow. It creates flow in our bodies. We are 60+% water. And interesting enough, the full moon coming up on the 2nd, or depending where you are, it might be the 1st. The 2nd is a Pisces moon, which is also very watery, deep, deep water. It's the place of healing when the stuff that's been hidden, the ideas of what we think that have imprisoned us are rising to the surface. So we have an opportunity not only to engage our imagination, but also to kind of liquidize the belief systems, the things, the thoughts, the kind of religious thoughts, which is dogma really, that we have taken on, that we have to do things in a certain way, or we have to hide things. So all of that is being activated in a way of flow. It's releasing us from the mud of our own thoughts, releasing us from this idea that we can't have something different. And so the more we kind of engage with this idea of being in liquid, in flow, in release, because water often helps us to release, then the greater the healing, the greater the impact of kind of pushing away from our moorings, moving into something different, unknown, unpredictable, something we can't control because we don't know what it means, and we don't need to control it, because what we want to do is get really clear. And so water or liquid helps us to get super clear about our illusions and kind of our desires. What is the thing we really want? And by tapping into our imagination, tapping into our intuition, we're actually taking the sacred path of becoming more in sync with what we desire, as opposed to suppressing what we desire so that we'll fit in. So it's definitely feeling that release of needing to go by the book or kind of fit in, and going, okay, I want to move. It's kind of, I'm sick of being where I am. I don't care about what other people think about me. I don't care that I'm breaking with custom or maybe dismissing somebody who's my elder. I'm just going to do it because this desire is so much stronger than what else there's been, right? Or what I've been kind of stuck on. The second card, so this is very interesting that, you know, we have the blues and all the water and this idea of healing and letting the water flow, let ourselves be unbound in some way. And then the second card is the soul portal, and this soul portal 18. And the number 18 is about releasing. It's, I call it the number of the death of the ego in some way, where we're releasing ideology or truths that we've held on to. We can't do something because it wouldn't be right, or I don't really want it, when underneath we do. What's attracting my attention right here is this sense, like this sort of center of the card, where is this opening, like a doorway, and as you look beyond, there's more water and more light. Like, you know, even though it's surrounded by darkness and a sense of maybe some kind of fear, like I don't want to go there, but I do want to go there. That sense of, I'm excited, but can I do this? Am I allowed to? And this figure in the front, which could be you, is just being completely immersed in the healing energy of source. This idea of just opening the heart, opening the mind, the third eye, this, you know, opening the throat, all of this kind of part, the front of our body completely open to this idea of receiving knowledge, receiving wisdom, receiving flow, this ability to be electrocuted by our own desire, electrocuted by the energy of the greater forces, and just move beyond the shock we've been in, or the stillness, the paralysis, where we have not been able to move, right? And so now we're being shocked into moving forward. There's a sense of immediacy, urgency, a sense of release, like I've got to get away, I've got to break free of this rigidity that is stopping me from truly feeling and experiencing what I want to feel, just keeping me stuck in the past, right? We're just repeating those old emotions, old stories, and then not able to move forward. And here's the sense of energy opening. And this card actually has Pegasus, and there's a trident, which is Neptune, is the ruler of Pisces. Right now we have a plane overhead, little plane. So a droning sound of the external world coming here to remind us that, you know, the external world exists. Do we want to, you know, how much credence are we giving to the external factors, and how much energy and love and attention are we giving to the things that help us glide through this experience? So there is definitely a sense of gaining wisdom, gathering speed, shifting off this old center, just moving away, breaking away from what is being, what we've cultivated, who we presented to the world. It just doesn't even matter. It's just all being swept away. And, you know, I think I can hear another plane. So yes, I guess it must be important, because we're hearing all these planes. Suddenly it was quiet, now all these planes coming. So I often think that the outside world contributes or gets involved in our kind of spiritual world, if you will, the world inside of us, by reminding us of certain things, or wanting to irritate us, and then we deciding, am I irritated by not or not? And I have found in these last years of being able to kind of just, you know, as long as I know what the noise is, sometimes it doesn't bother me. Most of the time I want to know what the sound is, so I can identify it and then corral it. So I put in this little box. Oh, somebody's making a lot of noise. Okay, I can see what they're doing. They're ripping apart the roof, a plane's flying. And then I can go, okay, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. And I can ask, is this important to me? Is it relevant? Or what is the message, if there's one? And so I invite you to do this now, this time, because there's a reason we have interference in our lives. Sometimes those noises are to remind us maybe we're getting stuck in old thinking, or we're going down a new path and we feel a sense of maybe fear or uncertainty. Or maybe what we really feel is excitement. Many of us can't tell the difference between what fear and excitement. You know, feels very similar, but we usually name it fear because that's what we're used to. We're saying like it's something to be afraid of instead of it's something to kind of relish and really get excited about. So just think about how distractions in the world, people doing things we don't agree with, can often take us off course from what we're supposed to be doing. And right now we are focusing, we're being inwardly focused into what is true for us. So how other people do things is maybe something they are comfortable with. Maybe it's something they've been trained to respond to in a certain way. We don't know. What we do know is, what are we choosing to respond to, and how are we responding to? Are we getting mad because people are doing things we don't agree with? Or are we pulling in our resources and going, this is what I want to create, this is what I desire to be focused on, and what does that require from me? So this sense of going inward, deeply into the depths of seeing what is possible in this world of who we are, like beyond what we've believed and seen and dreamed. And I know for myself, when I think about doing something that I feel is maybe above me or out of my league and things like that, I find myself more and more like looking at what's behind my ideas, what's behind these thoughts that are keeping me stuck. And so all of this awareness of the noise and the kind of chatter that goes on, that we just accept and buy into without going, wait a minute, is this really what I want? Is this true? Let me go deeper. Let me look deeper. Let me feel deeper. Let me really get excited about this idea that I get to do what I desire if I can unpack enough of my desire to take the next step and the next, right? And then go deeper. So it's this process of exploring, you know, observing, choosing, integrating, and then again, we just keep going, you know, spiraling into this deeper sense of who we are, and it's very powerful. So the third card is a number. So number 8. How wonderful. I'm always excited when we get one of each card because it doesn't happen every time, but we started off with the tool, and we had the soul portal, and now we have the number. And of course, the colorings are not blue. So blue is the throat energy. Blue is about speaking out truth. It's this connection that brings us into a sense of depth within ourselves, of water, of you know, we think about the sky, you know, we think that the sky is, it's blue, it looks blue, so it looks like it's something surrounding us, whereas it's just atmosphere, actually. There's nothing, right? If you go up, you won't see blue. You'll just keep going and going. So the optical illusion, when we look at the water and the sun reflects in the water, it looks blue. When we look at water through something, it looks clear. So there's all of this different stuff that happens when we start to kind of look deeper and choose different paths and begin to understand how things are working for us and taking us towards where we want to go. You know, and clearly there is no way for us to go if we don't want to go, right? It's like the things that happen to us or for us happen to us or for us. That's so funny, 2 and 4, right? Happen because we have some kind of agreement with it. Like, and we're thinking, well, why is this happening to me? But there's obviously a reason, because nothing will happen without our consent. It may not be a conscious consent. We may not even know that we are consenting to it, but it is how reality is created, through our consent, one way or another. So we may be mad, like, why am I stuck here? But even saying, why am I stuck here, is giving consent to the idea that we are stuck here, right? And instead, if we apply water, you know, imply this potion for motion, and we start moving forward, we start looking at things differently, we begin to understand the power of what is available. Like, we can sit in the same space and have a completely different perspective, a completely different experience by receiving something that maybe we didn't receive, seeing something we didn't see, and working in tandem with things we may have dismissed or never seen before. So it's all really up to us in what we're choosing to flow into and flow with and go towards. What are we inviting in? What are we saying yes to? What are we allowing into our world? Because most of us tend to allow things that are negative, and we tend to think about ourselves negatively, and the things that happen to us, like if we want something and somehow the door closes in our face, we think that, oh yeah, something's wrong, instead of thinking, well, maybe this is the right way. Maybe I am meant to go around, right? So there's so many ways to start rethinking about the things we have taken for granted. In other words, we've read them in a certain way, we've believed a certain thing, and we are just believing those things over and over without getting curious or going, wait a minute, let me, add some water here. Let me, it's kind of like when you paint. I've started painting again recently, and just for my own pleasure, and to kind of activate this field I'm talking about, this idea of being in this yumminess of being able to see, hey, there's way more stuff here than I saw, and there's way more options for thinking differently, acting differently, choosing differently than I realized. And so what else is there? I've done this part, I'm sick of it, I'm going to do something different. And so when I'm painting, like one of the things that makes me happy is that I can just take, like if I do something I don't like, I can just take another color and just like kind of paint over, or crayon over, or spray some water on it. I can have a whole different painting, just layering it on top of each other, just by changing something I don't like, by adding water, right? Or turning it upside down, the piece of paper. It's like we have all this available to us, this vastness, this incredible opportunity to be expansive and live in a whole different world, even though we're in the same place. So that said, the third number, the card, which is 8, there's that purpley energy that takes us up into the higher chakras, into this idea of being able to receive information differently, be aware that our minds are very limited. Our mind is a finite thing. It can only hold certain things. Things can get stuck and lost in there. But when we start to allow new things, open our third eye, connect to our channel, we can see things or hear things, know things we didn't before. So while we may not be and know all the wisdom in the world, we have access to things. Like for me, I go to the Akashic Records, which has access to all wisdom, to get knowledge that's available to me so I can grow at my own pace, or to get it for my clients when they're looking for information or healing. Why am I doing this? What else can I know? It's this gentling of our expansion that allows us to truly grow at our own pace. And here we are in 2020. This may not feel like our pace, but clearly it is, because we wouldn't be experiencing whatever we're experiencing if it wasn't our pace, right? We're all in this together. We've all kind of agreed that this is going to be happening, and being shaken up and waken up in this kind of exciting way is obviously good for us, because, hey, we've all been asleep for so long. So the number 8. So what I love about the number 8 is, yes, it's geometry, right? It's sacred geometry, because it's the symbol of infinity. And it is 2 circles, which is the first number is the 0, right? Begins with a 0. Everything begins with a circle, full of everything and nothing, whatever you want it to be. It's an empty space with a limit around it. And that's where we are right now. We're in an empty space. It has a limit. Like, what we're afraid of is that we don't see the limit, because it's like, these crazy people out here are just doing crazy things. Where is the limit? Where's going to be that kind of lasso, the edge of the pool, that they're going to stop doing what they're going to stop doing? And of course, there is a limit. We can't see it. But the truth is, at some point, like all of us are getting mad, right? And saying, I don't want this anymore. I want something different. I'm going to get out in the street. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to call someone. I'm going to take different right action. And all of those things then create the circumference of limitation for those that we think are out of control. But it's this dance that life asks us to not only understand where the boundaries are, but also to create the boundaries we need, right? So that we are in flow with our experience. We're never without a boundary. There is always boundaries. The trick is that we need to recognize that we don't see the boundary, or that we're unsure of the boundary, or we just need to articulate what that boundary is, right? So there's all these different ways of recognizing the power of limitation. You know, this is such a huge topic for the time we're in because of the activity of Pluto and Saturn. You know, you've probably heard me talk about it and other people. What began at the beginning of the year. So Pluto is about destruction, and Saturn is about limits. When you think about destruction and limits, it's a very sensual thing that is part of our natural being, that knowing that when something is off, we destroy it. When something comes to an end, it is destroyed, because that's just the nature of life, the regeneration of what happens. When something's ended, when it's had its fullness, it must end, and then it dies and becomes something else. So the 8 reminds us of that. As above, so below, as within, so without. It's that constant connection between 2 circles, 2 pools that allow us to move between heaven and earth, and to actually remind us that in order to bring heaven to earth, that we have to position ourselves in this idea of who we are, right? And accept the responsibility and the action we need to take, and take leadership, and have the courage to take our hero's journey, to do what we need to do, to not so much resist as it is about going in the direction, right? Creating that boundary, like I was talking about. Like when we decide something isn't working, we start to do something, talk to people, activate a boundary. And if you're a parent or you work with people that need boundaries, this is what happens. Like every child knows that when they're growing through their lives, that they must do whatever they can to feel the edge of that boundary, so they know that they're safe, right? So that's where we are. We're pushing, and the people that we look at that we don't like what they're doing, they're pushing the boundaries too. They don't know either. No one feels safe, so we're all pushing the boundaries, try to find where's that edge. Where's that place that's the stop? And then I go, okay, I'm here. I'm in the circle. I can feel it. I feel safe. And now I can give my attention to that other side of this, taking leadership, pushing through obstacles. And now I can actually kind of improve my game, as it were, because now I know where the boundary is, right? I know the rules. I know what needs to happen. So of course, it's fascinating that we're reminded that even in this time of turmoil, that there are boundaries, and there are limitations, and there are things we need to break through and break free of in order to upgrade our articulation of our lives, and that we feel something different, that we live differently. So it's a very powerful reminder. The other thing is that when you have 2 circles, it reminds us of the breath and the desire to bring these ideals of the perfect world, or whatever it is that we think is important, into the earthly realm. And what do we need to do, right? It takes courage, it takes strength, it takes determination, it takes persistence, all of those things that we are now being forced to deal with, like moving away from our overwhelm because we have set some kind of boundary, so we can now be very focused. Like when I was talking about the idea of noise, etc., right? That's me setting my boundary about how I can live in a world that's noisy. Like I just identify it and I just let it go, right? That's me setting a boundary. So what are you doing to set a boundary so that you stop just feeling like you're, out of control and overwhelmed, and then you can now take the leadership role, look at the bigger picture, see where you need to hone in and connect and change and shift. So very powerful. So that's the reading for this week. Hopefully what I was saying has merit. Sometimes I just go on because I get all the stuff that comes in from the records. So hopefully it is useful. Well, I believe I wouldn't say it if it wasn't. And the other thing that has come through for me to mention is we are moving into September. So we do have a 9-month coming. So we know endings are here. Like this is the harvest time, the time of the equinox, and it is a 13 universal month. So a lot of sudden, unexpected changes, experiences, upending, and surprises. I will do a separate video for the month. In the meantime, thank you for being here. Know that I love you, and that I know you're doing an amazing job in this time. I would love to hear what this brought up for you, or perhaps you have something you want to share with me that you saw or feel around this time. And as I mentioned, the cards are for sale on my website, jenduchene.com. And I will see you next time.